Hi, everyone. This is Eric Hale with Creatio, and welcome to our webinar about 9 things your CRM solution should have in 2021. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick introduction to my co-host today, Sam Biardo from Technology Advisors. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. And we've got a pretty packed agenda for you guys today. We're going to be having a great discussion on several different topics. So first, we'll have a quick introduction to both myself and Sam's company, Technology Advisors. We'll be looking at accelerated digital adoptions, both from a customer and business perspective, and then what the importance of customer relationship management will be in 2021. Then Sam will be presenting some great features to future-proof your CRM in the upcoming year. So, and then we'll hopefully open it up to Q&A where we get some great feedback from the audience. So we'll go ahead and get started. So Sam, I'll turn it over to you to give a quick introduction to yourself as well as Technology Advisors.
Sure. Well, the title says it all. As a college professor who got pulled into consulting in the early 90s, was working on primarily sales and marketing driven companies. When CRMs came out, we pivoted our company to be a CRM solution provider. We started a integration migration company called Starfish to make it easier for people to integrate their CRMs and migrate from one CRM to another. And while this is all going on, I do a monthly podcast with a friend of mine from San Francisco, and try to work around 60 rounds of golf a year while doing all that. So that's pretty the summary of me.
Excellent, Sam. That's a lot of rounds. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Technology Advisors.
Absolutely. We've been doing this for a long time, as I pointed out, about 30 years right now. And we've been with Creatio the moment they came to the United States. We were probably one of your first partners in the US. We realized really quickly how special the product was. We're a tier 5 partner. One of the things we do that we believe is a little different is we have a formal customer success program. So after the implementation, we continue to work with our clients to help them do planning and strategy and making sure that we're providing the services they need. Although it's less important today, we do have a great training center in Chicago that'll sit 30 people, and when COVID's over, we will probably resume having training classes on administration and development and things like that. Like I said before, we're a migration integration specialist. We provide all our customers 5 day a week from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. support as part of our customer success program. And really, we focus on being experts in CRM and in best practices.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, and definitely appreciate the partnership here, Sam. And I know that you and I have worked on a few strategic initiatives, so it's been a very positive experience from my side. So thank you for that. And just as a quick introduction to myself, guys, I'm the head of global sales enablement here at Creatio. So my role is really to kind of align the strategy between our different groups. So from sales to marketing to operations, making sure that our go-to-market strategy is aligned, and make sure that we're operating as a cohesive unit. So been doing that for a little bit here for Creatio. Prior to that, I've got a lot of experience in the software industry, including CRM technologies for the financial and banking industries. So just by way of Creatio, as a quick introduction, we are a global organization. We have 5 offices all around the world to help support the thousands of customers that have actually chosen the Creatio platform to meet their business needs. We have a robust team of partners like Sam. We have over 700 partners globally that help us extend our reach into 110 different countries. So we do have quite a large presence, and we do rely on our partners to help us get the word out to these other additional areas. We've been highly recognized by analysts at Gartner and Forrester, and let me talk to you a little bit about some of that recognition. Oh, I went ahead too far. Getting click happy here, Sam. So in terms of that analyst recognition, with Gartner, we've been recognized to 5 Gartner Magic Quadrants, including being named as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for CRM lead management, as well as CRM Salesforce automation. So 2 leader categories related to CRM, which really has helped us to position and solidify our presence within the CRM market. Very similarly, we've been recognized to 7 Forrester Waves as a strong performer, and this really speaks to both our CRM capabilities, but also within our capabilities for digital process automation and case management. Excellent. So that's just a little bit about Creatio, and we'll move into the main part of our presentation today, and the accelerated digital adoption that we're seeing in our new reality here. So we're going to take a look at this in a couple of different ways. We're going to look at it from a customer perspective as well as a business perspective. So it's not any mystery to those on the call today that the impact of COVID-19 on customer behavior was very immediate, and it was widespread. It affected all industries, countries, demographics. Everybody was equally affected by the impact of COVID-19. And what that's done is it's really changed expectations. The expectations have changed in terms of priorities that have shifted, really shifted to the health and safety of both customers and employees. So that's been a very strong priority shift, and that in turn has changed the consumer decision making and buying behavior as well. So when we look at some of these statistics, as a result, consumers have become, more thoughtful and selective in their decision-making processes. The shift from, that in-person interaction to more online channels really has created a more digitally savvy consumer who have come to expect, effortless interactions from all the vendors that they're working with. So this applies to all consumers of all ages and different buying types. They've really discovered that online channels make their daily routines more efficient, and we're seeing that this behavior is going to likely stick as well. So what we've been kind of forced into accelerating our digital transformation efforts is probably going to stick and be a trend as we move forward. So we can take a look at some of these trends. We're looking at 14% of shoppers are making their purchases through social media today. 75% of people using digital channels for the first time indicate that they're going to continue to use them when things return to normal. So we just noticed this trend as being accelerated. I think most organizations had a roadmap for this, but because we've been kind of forced into this new reality, we've been forced to accelerate that timeline, and we see that trend continuing when we get back to some semblance of normal. So as we're looking at this recent McKinsey study, we can see that customer behaviors and preferred interactions have changed significantly. And while they continue to shift, the uptick in the use of digital services is going to be here to stay, at least to some degree, which we can see from this graphic on this slide. 75% of people using digital channels, as I had mentioned on the last slide, indicate that they're going to continue to use them when things return to normal. So that's really forced companies to ensure that their digital channels are on par with or better than those of their competitors. So if you're going to succeed in this new environment, you have to ensure that your digital strategy is going to be robust enough to differentiate you from your competitors. And this is a real indicator that the need to be able to adapt to change rapidly is vital to any organization's health, right? Most companies recognized this pre-COVID, as I had mentioned. However, they had roadmaps that maybe extended 3 to 5 years out in some cases. Well, due to the pandemic, this has been accelerated, right? We've had to make these changes more rapidly, and we've been looking for tools to kind of make that happen. So I'd like to pause for a quick moment and take a quick poll of the audience to see which challenges have been top of mind when it comes to customer engagement. So we'll open that up. I think I've got my my idea how this is going to go, Sam, just due to the conversations that I've been having with customers. But as we wait, you have any predictions on what we'll see?
Well, I don't want to bias it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll give that a minute and show you some results. All right, here we go. Wow, 50% all of the above. That's exactly what I had in mind.
Me too. That's exactly what I would expect.
We see all of that as part of the challenge to remain, engaged with customers, especially from a remote perspective. So interesting to see that those challenges are what the audience is seeing as well. Mobile communication not supported, 8%. That's something that mobile has been a mobile first strategy for a while, so I'm not surprised to see that there. Yep, outdated data on customer requests, right up there with the absence of omni-channel communications. So perfect. And I know that Sam, you'll be addressing some of that in your presentation later and what your CRM should include.
Absolutely.
All right, let me see if I can back out of this and move to the next slide. Oop. I don't want to get too far ahead here. Bear with me. There we go. All right. So now we're going to take a look at this from a different perspective. Let's look at this from how businesses have had to adapt to this. So we've seen consumer buying behaviors and expectations changing. So how do we look at this from a business perspective? So today's, CEOs and leaderships of organizations are really faced with some overwhelming challenges, and we're really in uncharted waters as we, kind of continue to navigate the impacts of COVID-19. And to win in what will be the next normal, organizations really need to identify current behaviors that are going to define their customer experience in the near term, as well as long term. And we need to ensure that these opportunities are aligned with business strategies and capabilities. So if we look at some of the statistics that you see here on the screen, you'd mentioned COVID-19 really sped up those digital transformation efforts. We look at 5.3 years according to this IT portal survey. But we also see this from a business perspective as an opportunity. Despite the pandemic, spending on digital transformation is actually increasing, and we're going to see that increase to 1.3 trillion here in the U.S. according to IDC. And again, taking a look at the way that we have to keep engaged and manage those interactions with our customers are also going to be vital. And we see that organizations are accelerating the way that they remain in contact with their customers, and also internally as well. How do we manage remote teams, et cetera? So when we look at this, as I had mentioned, companies have accelerated the digitization. I always struggle with that word, Sam. Digitization of their customer interactions and internal operations. And looking at this statistic from what we see here on the screen, and another recent McKinsey report, executives say that their companies acted 20 to 20 times faster than expected. Remote working, for an example, respondents said that their companies moved 40 times faster than they thought would be possible before the pandemic. And when it comes to customer engagement, it's not surprising to see increasing customer demand for online purchasing and services, and changing customer needs and expectations as to key indicators where companies have had to accelerate their transformational efforts. And as we look at the top trends for CRM in 2021 and what role CRM is going to play, we look at it as a key couple of areas here. So to stay competitive in this new business and economic environment is going to require new strategies and practices. So executives from multiple industries are recognizing technology strategic importance as a critical component of their business. So it's not just a source of cost efficiencies anymore. It's really, how are we going to become more viable as an organization? And CRM has become that one-stop solution that's going to help businesses make better data-driven decisions that will help them, whether that's increasing sales, helping them with their efficiencies, being able to retain their customers more efficiently. It's going to be able to help them improve that and ultimately increase their overall revenues. So if we look at this, this first box, we're looking at the global CRM software market is forecasted to grow to $43.5 billion US by 2024. So that just gives you an idea of how large the market is for CRM, and how organizations are looking at CRM to kind of help streamline all of those processes, right? Being able to acquire customers more efficiently, retain customers more efficiently, and have their operations run more smoothly and more effectively. So if we look at the second statistic here, in 2020, we saw an increased use of CRM software on mobile devices, right? So if we look at the ability to have that remote workforce and being able to access CRM remotely is leading to where teams are seeing a 50% improved productivity by having access to mobile CRM. And then finally, statistics show that automated enabled self-service is an emerging trend, and really important within a CRM to help start to build predictive models. So by 2021, AI-powered CRM activities could increase global business revenues by 1.1 trillion, according to IDC. So we see these as huge trends for the CRM market coming up into this year. And some of the key functionality that you're going to look for within a CRM, Sam is going to describe, what those trends are and those capabilities should be when looking at the CRM of the future. So Sam, I'll turn it over to you at this point and have you run through the 9 things CRM should have in 2021.
Thank you, Eric. And what's interesting about the 9 things is that they're all highly interrelated. So you may see 1 or 2 come to play by themselves, but the reality is they all build upon each other and actually take it to the next level. I've been internally at my office calling it CRM 3.0 because it is in fact going to be not your I guess it would be not your older brother's CRM. Clearly not your father's CRM. So we'll go to the next slide. The first thing is omni-channel communication. We've been talking omni-channel communication for a long time, but the reality is that it's now a fact. I can't tell you how many times someone will reach out to me on, say, LinkedIn through a message, which that conversation will then continue to go to email or go to text messages. And the real point is when CRM started out, and even until maybe the invention of a smartphone, we only had 3 channels. It was email, I'm talking to somebody live, or I'm making a phone. People weren't texting each other. But now, we are seeing a whole set of connections that people are making, text message, mobile, social networks, internal hosted systems like Teams and Yammer and Slack, and then of course chat. And the problem with all this is that if I want that 360 view of the customer, my CRM must be able to handle all the communication channels that I'm using. And we've seen some really smart people come up with, instead of trying to keep them all separate, building like a communication center where they mash up these different messages, because that's frankly the only way to get the 360 view. So omnichannel is number 1, and number 2 is AI. And everyone talks about AI. There's two approaches to AI. There's predictive analytics, which is a math-based modeling, and then there's learning machines, which are signal response based, and they operate completely different. And what's interesting about them is, although they sometimes come to the same results, they take a different path to get there. And so in predictive modeling, there's actually 3 types. There's predictive, descriptive, and decision. And predictive analytics is essentially takes a statistical look at your information. So it might compare all the opportunities sold won against customer data, for example, profile information. And it will then predict things like cross-selling opportunities because it sees a pattern, a probability matrix in the data. They see that if people have these features, then they're probably going to want this product. Okay, and it tends to find data patterns we don't normally see because it's crunching on data. We, as humans, are really good at seeing patterns, but when you have so much data coming in, it becomes very difficult. And predictive analytics and predictive modeling takes that and helps build that out. The second type, and by the way, just one of the things about predictive modeling and all the predictive analytics is that you have to have a lot of data for them to do accurate predictions. So always keep that in mind, and that is in fact the negative about the predictive modeling and predictive analytics, because the amount of data has to be effectively the number of data items have to be equal to, if you guys remember statistics, degree of freedom. You have to have, for every data item I'm comparing, I need 1 row of data. And if I do that, I'm flipping a coin. So you need to have just a ton of data to make these work, but they do work really well. Descriptive modeling is actually, what it does is it looks at relationships and outcomes. So it doesn't necessarily look at the data value, but it looks at the fact that for every contact, if it has this type of, if it has a note record in a particular time frame, some outcome will happen. So for example, I can predict maybe what products preferences people are going to have based on their age. Okay, and that would be relationships between multiple objects in my CRM. Decision models actually, they actually look at the decision-making process, how the events have happened to get to an end result, and they then optimize those decisions based on to get a desired outcome. So for example, the example I'm using is drip marketing. You can use decision modeling after you've analyzed your data to look at patterns on how people respond to drip marketing campaigns and actually send them highly structured emails based on what behaviors they're already showing to push them to, say, a sale outcome, which would be a predictive outcome. Let's go next slide.
Oh, I got it for you.
No
Yeah,
problem. Thanks. So the next slide's about learning machines, and learning machines are the other form of AI. So there are essentially three types of learning processes. One that called supervised learning, where you actually give it a rule and a series of outcomes. And so the idea behind a learning machine is that it gets an input, which they call a signal, and then it looks for a desired outcome, which is called feedback. Okay, and then it tries to prioritize what signals at what point in time create a feedback to get to where I want to go. So imagine building a tree structure of every decision that could be made, and I have only certain ones at the bottom that make my outcome. What I want to do is force everybody to a tree pattern or a decision process that will come with the outcome I want it to have. So when you do that with supervised, what you do is you set up a bunch of rules on how the system can work. You hand it data that will show it a particular outcome, and it then continues to figure out what decisions have to get made in the process to get to that outcome. It essentially prunes the tree based on large amounts of data. And what's great about learning machines over predictive analytics is I can use less data to get to similar types of results. So in my example here, I can prioritize which leads to call based on the previous history and success for a lead profile versus getting an actual win. And so what it's actually doing is it's organizing, it's feeding me up the most probable and promising leads based on past experience. The second form is unsupervised learning. This is where you don't give it any rules and you tell it, how do I get to these results? And it tries multiple permutations. For example, I could look at the browsing history and determine which customers are likely to buy. That would be an unsupervised learning exercise. And again, with unsupervised learning, you need a lot more data than supervised, because it is essentially making its own rules. And then what has to happen is, typically, if you're using this approach, there is another module that will come along with it that tries to guide you through the decision process so you can understand, is this a reasonable approach? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to accept anything from a learning machine unless we understand its logic in choosing that path. And then the other one, the final one, is reinforced learning, which is effectively what they use in driverless cars. And what this is for real-time signals. So for example, every time you go to Google and they ask you for a CAPTCHA and they show you a pictures and say, you know, which one of these is a stop sign, right? What you're doing is you're teaching an AI how to find a stop sign, because you as a human are giving it a series of, you're creating a series of decisions that says, this is what I see as stop signs. That could be right, it could be wrong, but what that does is gets fed into a learning machine that will then learn from us how we identify a stop sign without telling it any rules about what a stop sign should look like. So we'll try to go to the next slide here. There we go. So so now that you got your AI up and running, the next thing that I think is really critical is low code, no code. And the reason why is it effectively, in software development, there's a hitch in communications typically. You know, you go through a process of gathering up a set of business requirements that actually become user stories that get drilled down into more detailed user stories that get packaged up into you know, sprints. And the reality is that for every time we take a concept from a theme to an initiative to an epic to a user story, when we go through that process, we introduce error as we turn it over to developers. And it turns out you can quantify that. And it turns out that about 40 to 50% of the cost of development is actually misinterpretations of requirements between the development team and the business analysts. And so one of the ways to solve this problem is make the business analyst the development team. Unfortunately, there's some human skills that typically are different between the two, but all of a sudden low code comes in. And what that does is it allows business analysts to develop large pieces of software. And because misinterpretation of requirements not only happen between BAs and developers, but also it happens between the customer and the BA, it allows us to do rapid mock-ups and show those to the customer so we can solidify their thoughts faster. It allows us to build systems at a much faster pace, which means there's lower cost. And that also implies one thing, that we don't need as many resources. So, you know, low code becomes really important now to accelerate development. And so now we're going to start taking some stuff and putting them together. So the next trend, everyone's been talking about accounts-based marketing. Where account-based marketing really becomes interesting is when you start focusing account-based marketing and you try to market at either a company or a micro vertical level. So for example, until recently, we would not market to a specific industry like companies who make ball bearings. There just wasn't enough out there to do that. But now if I take an AI, and I take all the data I've learned about companies, and I use even external sources like data augmentation tools, which we're going to talk about as another point later on, and I pull that data together, okay, now I can create a really targeted profile. And if I add that to dynamic content from marketing, what I can do is actually send emails out where the content gets tweaked and changed based upon the profile of the person. And that's all being done through the AI. So the AI is telling us what each person wants to see in their targeted marketing. So now you can go and have if you're a big company and you sell to the automotive industry, imagine going out and getting a series of names for executives at Ford Motors, and then sending each of them an email that changes ever so slightly to meet the AI's expectations of what their profiles say. And that's really what this power is. So you take ABM and marketing and you combine them together, and it'll help you find companies that you have your greatest success. And then the APM delivers the dynamic content based upon public information you've taken through your data augmentation tool. You could even create personal landing pages so that when the person comes in, they fall into a class. Maybe these are financial people versus IT people versus business leaders and planners. And so they would get a personalized landing page based on the profile that the AI has developed for them. Your success can be magnified by then prospecting to these folks and having a slightly different message. And I mean, like literally the old days, picking up the phone and calling them, because you're working with a much smaller group of people. You're not sending this out to 100,000 people. You're sending it out to 500 people. And what you can actually do is do things like create personalized webinars for companies now. So the combination of these technologies are making it real easy to focus back in on marketing to a very small set of companies that have similar needs, and allows you to provide very targeted content to make them want to buy your product. And so 5 is data augmentation. And again, this is, as we just talked about, driven by AI and ABM. And there's the things that you can do. First thing everyone needs to do is dedupe their data. I think it's the #1 problem. I read studies that talks about your data starts corrupting at a rate of about 15% a year. So if you haven't augmented and cleaned up your data, after a few years, essentially you've got about a half to a third of your data is garbage. And so, going through a deduplicating process is one thing you can do. Purging old data is another thing you can do. I've seen customers who, have someone who called in for a lead 20 years ago, and they're still trying to market to them. That's very unrealistic. Also, it's not GDPR compliant, but it's very unrealistic. And so putting together a master data management approach and developing a data cleaning, data purging process is critical. Then you can augment your data. There are tools out there. We've been working very successfully with a company called Inside View, and they can go through and add hundreds of pieces of missing information about contacts, including not only including phone numbers, but including things like information off their social profiles. And then obviously you can augment by adding new contacts and companies that fit your particular profile. The other thing you can do is you can monitor public sources, like there's a public database for change of address provided by actually the North American, both Canadian, US, and Mexican. You can get that information and do automatic updates. If someone is moving their office, wouldn't you want to know about it? And that's the type of information you can get from public sources. And then finally, you can actually use your predictive analytics to figure out which data you want. You feed that augmented data to your predictive analytics system, and it will find more patterns, cross-sell opportunities, better leads. So going on to 6. Thank you. I thought I clicked it.
Let me try it for you.
There I did it. I got it. Okay. Is context-sensitive mobile application. So this is something I've been advocating for about 5 years, but I think I'm seeing it more and more. And that is that what's interesting about mobile is that if you're in a field service or you're in a field sales role, or it's the old days when we get to go back and visit the client face to face, okay, what you really want your mobile app to do is feed you the information you need, okay? And it's based on location primarily, but it could also be based on your calendar. And we're starting to see some of this stuff creep into, like, Android and iPhones. Their native applications are now getting a little more intelligent. Cortana is now through Office 365 is now providing, you can turn on a service that'll provide suggestions for things you need to do every day based on email reading. But if you combine, if you combine AI with location information, you can essentially serve up things that people want to see. So for example, if I'm visiting a client in a business, maybe when I bring my phone up, it should say, here are all the open cases, here are the unpaid invoices for any other client in this building, but the one you're seeing, here's their issues. And this goes back to a story that happened a long time ago. One of the first CRM major successes was a hair products company. And All they did was the day before they went to visit, and this was not an AI, so was just a process. But one of the things they did was they went and got all the issues that were open with the clients before they went to visit them, because when you talk to a barber or hairstylist, you get like 15 minutes as a field salesperson. And what they did was they resolved all those things beforehand and able to double their product sales simply by, when they walked in there, they weren't talking about issues. They were saying all those things are resolved. They were being proactive. Now think of that example of doubling your sales, and now add that to your mobile application with location information and AI, and all of a sudden your meetings become a lot more productive and your salespeople are not getting ambushed. And that's just a real powerful thing, combination of features. So now if I have location sensitive information, well, I think this is actually a greenfield, in fact, because there's not a lot of companies doing a good job of this yet. But field service, now that we're buying everything through the internet and we're having stuff shipped back to our house and something breaks down, we're no longer shipping it out necessarily, or taking it to a store. I know recently I replaced a modem, and the company who had I was renting it, the previous modem from, I couldn't just drop it off because all their stores are closed, so they had to ship me a box to put it in so I could ship it back. But we're seeing that that now, especially, there's no way of bringing stuff in, so a lot of stuff is now being done in a field service. And field service is just a combination of technologies we already have in place. It is essentially case management, scheduling, the notifications. Hey, we're going to be there Tuesday. Hey, we're on our way. Hey, we just arrived at your house. Return material authorizations, RMAs. Oh, you need this thing on my. You need a part that I happen to have on my truck, so I need to give you a mobile quote and have you do a mobile order. I need to have. I didn't put it in here, but you probably have truck inventory as well. Routing and directions for the people driving the service truck, and then before and after photos. I just had some furniture delivered, and the delivery people took pictures before of the empty spots, and then they put the furniture down and took pictures of the furniture. So that's all part of what we need for field service, and there's more and more people now involved in the field service business. So this becomes a big issue. So 8 now is e-commerce support. So if I'm now seeing a large portion of my customers buying through the internet, and in fact, the real scary part is they're not talking to salespeople anymore. They're just making purchase decisions on their own. I need to have an understanding or an integration between my e-commerce solution and my CRM. And I need it for a lot of different reasons. Number one, I need that data to be able to have my AI do profiling of it. So I need the e-commerce solution to be more of a configurator solution than just ordering, because they're not talking anymore to the salespeople when they're buying. So what's going on is, as people do their research, they finally make a decision and they want it now. And so that's the reason for e-commerce. But inside sales also needs to be able to do easy ordering. And what I'm finding is a lot of customers are now taking their e-commerce solution and using it internally for their sales team to call. So if someone does call up, they're just doing the same thing a customer would do, except a slightly different process, but using the same basic e-commerce solution. And if I can connect my e-commerce into my sale, I can do things like track purchases and use my AI to provide upsell opportunities, either while they're in the middle of the purchase process or afterwards to my inside sales team. And And the idea right now is because people are now using e-commerce, there's less demand for an inside sales team as there was before. And so I think this is just a big trend. I see people in the future buying services, not just products through e-commerce. And I think this is something that we have to have an integration into the CRM so that we can use all the CRM tools to maximize our e-commerce sales. And then my last one pulls all of these ideas together and comes up with micro verticals. So if I can target an industry from a ABM, data augmentation, dynamic content, AI perspective, and I have low-code tools, I can now build solutions specifically for those industries that I know I'm going to have a high success rate. And what we're seeing is our customers don't want they don't want customizations as much as they want configurations. And so with the idea of low code and the idea of verticalized micro verticals, we can see customers get new solutions up really, really quickly. It's no longer years and months, it's maybe weeks and days. So the idea is to have highly customized CRM solutions because that's what the customer wants to see. Low code obviously makes this very easy for us to do. And the CRM becomes more about turning on and off features to personalize the solution as to do software development. Now, I'm not saying software development's going away. I'm just saying that as you see more and more micro verticals come out, you'll see less and less software verticals. And this goes back to the fact that we have low code and now we're focused more on BAs versus programmers. So those are my 9 things I think we're going to see really make CRM the CRM 3.0. And now back to Eric.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Sam. And yeah, with those points, you can clearly see that that's not your big brother's CRM solution anymore. We have to think about CRM beyond tracking transactions and building reports, but how are we going to create these better engagements? So I couldn't agree more with the 9 points that you've outlined, and it really is the the approach that here at Creatio we're taking as well. We have this this saying that you see here on the screen. We're trying to create a world where anyone can automate business ideas within minutes, right? And we think that there's a couple of key strategies to help you along that path, right? So from Creatio, if we're looking at how we've built our platform, we would call our Creatio superpowers in 3 different pillars. We have a business process management engine that's going to allow you to align your people, your processes, your data, your applications across your entire team and be able to streamline those processes. To your point, Sam, when we look at low code, turning every company into a software company and turning every person in that company into a developer. So low code enables you to have citizen developers on the platform. And again, I think to your point, Sam, it's not to make developers go away, but it's also to enable that citizen development that will help alleviate some of that strain on traditional development resources. So that way you're recognizing a faster time to market, and you're also leveraging different skill sets within your organization to manage major changes, minor changes. We'll be able to take care of all of that with a low-code platform. And then finally, having a full unified CRM platform that's going to align your sales, marketing, and service operations. So if we have disparate systems and this is being managed in different platforms, that can make it very difficult to align that entire customer journey from, how that lead was generated to the ongoing repeat sales. if we're managing those in different systems and don't have that fully unified CRM process, there could be breakdowns. So, we've designed our platform to manage all three of those aspects. So what you're seeing on the screen is just a snapshot of the Creatio platform, and you can see at the foundation is our studio platform, and that is that low-code rapid application development business process management engine that's going to allow not only developers or system integrators to create processes and workflows and applications, but that makes it available at the business analyst level through visual design tools to create those. And that's really what we've utilized to build the comprehensive applications that you see sitting on top of it for sales, marketing, and service automation. So again, we're aligning and driving those applications on that single platform. The fourth box that you see there is simply our Creatio marketplace, where we have hundreds of applications, connectors, templates that have also been built utilizing the studio platform to create and maintain, extending the capabilities of Creatio into third-party applications. So I'd like to, again, thank Sam. These were tremendous points, and I think that the folks on the call probably see some of this helping their organizations and being part of their CRM strategy for 2021. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open it up for some questions, which I think we have quite a few teed up in the system today. So if I'm looking at some of the questions that we're having here in the chat, let me ask you, Sam. The first question is, with the move to digital only caused by the pandemic, which features of CRM are crucial for engaging customers digitally? And I know you went over some of those points, but what do you think are the most crucial?
I think you have to have omni-channel, just because that's the way people are communicating. I think AI has the largest payback of that CRM will provide you. And then I really think the ABM combination, dynamic content, data augmentation, combines up to, again, to really improve your sales rate. Again, the whole idea behind that is that there's two dials you got basically as a sales person, right? I've got a lead dial coming in, and if I have a close rate of 25%, if I can increase my leads, I should have more sales, right? And that's been the attitude of marketers for years. And there's also a sales dial that says, if I have the same number of leads, but I increase my close rate, okay, then I get to the same place. And ABM turns both of those dials, right? It basically increases an AI will predict what messaging you have to do to increase your sales. It will also pick the customers most likely to buy, so your close rate goes up, but it'll also find customers you didn't know about, and therefore it provides more leads for that. So I think those are what I think are the super hot on fire technologies, if I had to pick them.
Yeah, I would agree. And the only thing I would throw in there as well is the ability to adapt. So I mean, if we're looking at omni-channel, if you think about like just the journey for communications, right, and channels, it seems like every month we're getting additional channels, additional capabilities, and how do we adapt to those very quickly and bring those into our ecosystem as well? So I would also throw in the ability to change, right? And like you said, configure your system to be able to adapt to new technologies that are coming on board. Because if you think about what was your favorite mobile application 5 years ago, you probably can't name it, because we've had so many come out and replace it, or enhance the way that those applications work. We need to be able to adapt to that quickly. So I would throw low code in there as well. And so I have another question here, Sam. I think this one is probably geared more towards you. So the question is, how do you run your client training sessions today? Are you fully moving towards digital, or do you run presence and digital in a hybrid way?
Yeah, it's a really great question because we're actually changing it as we speak over the last 12 months. You know, we before were delivering training live, but via like a webinar approach. And for those customers who would want us to come out, we'd actually do live training. And there's a lot of studies that actually talk about live training being very effective, or being the most effective actually, because people have a social component. They're not going to be, you know, writing emails during the live training session, where when you do live training delivered the web, you don't know their full engagement level. But what we're doing is we're in the process of building out lots of little short videos, and we're going to combine live and recorded training to our customers. So during the design process, as we go through and talk about features with our customers, we're going to have supporting videos they can watch, so they can understand the implications of those features and some of the best practices with them. But then that same technology will be used after the project's over, and the training will probably still do live training, or mostly live training delivered to the customers. But then we're going to also provide them with this database of videos that they can go back and do refresher training, because the biggest challenge is that anyone who sits through a training course knows you only retain 20%. And so we're trying to make that number higher by having these reinforcing videos available to them, and through a combination of client surveys to find out what their comfort level is with something like entering an opportunity or moving something through a sales process. We can target the appropriate videos to individuals that will help them be more successful. So that's what we're doing on the training front.
Got it. Yeah, we're taking a very similar approach at Creatio through our Creatio Academy, and you know, providing you know, those video sessions as well. I think they bring up a great point, Sam. We would call that you know, just-in-time learning as well. So you know, as you reach various stages within your you know, your training modules, you know, wouldn't it be great to you know, surface up a video that would apply, you know, specific to that training as you're working your way through it. So taking a very similar approach here at Creatio. Okay, so I think we got time for one more quick question. If we're talking about customer interaction and journeys, are we talking about B2B only, or a mixture of B2C and B2B?
Well, I think customer journeys are both B2B and B2C, right? They're you know, having your business processes, your interactions, and your journeys all pre-mapped, pre-decided. That's, you know, my opinion, very critical. And it doesn't matter who your customer is. It could be you're selling to a distribution channel like you are. You sell to, you know, you sell through us. You still need a customer journey for your partners as well. So no matter who your customer, whether it's the end customer or the distribution channel that gets you to the end customer, there should be a customer journey and interaction plan for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, couldn't agree more. I think that you know, also just in terms of that, when selecting, you know, a CRM to manage those B2B and B2C processes, I think that in your consideration for you know, CRM, if you don't have that technology in place now, you need a CRM that's going to be able to manage both of those processes efficiently, especially you know, depending upon your model. You know, we're seeing that there's a lot of crossover, right? B2C and B2B, we're managing different types of customers, and having the ability to manage different journeys within your CRM platform is going to be ultimately important, because that buyer profile is changing, right? And we're changing the way that we're we're managing those journeys. So having robust tools to do that is also going to be equally important. So perfect. I think that brings us right to the top of the hour. We'd like to thank everybody for joining the webinar. Sam, big thanks to you for your great insight and helping to guide us to the best practices for CRM in 2021. So again, thank you very much. We'd like to encourage you to continue to join our webinars as they're very informative, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Eric.